Hey, check, check. Mic there? Is audio there now? Am I good? Am I crisp? Sorry, I think I had my mic muted. Oh, buddy. All right. Still no audio? It's showing on my end that I have audio. Is it still no audio? Let's reboot the stream. Oh, there's audio now. Okay. All right. No, Elias, your PC wasn't broken. I had my mic muted. Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. Sorry about the intro having no audio, but we're back. The audio is good. So, time for an impromptu live chat. Did not plan on doing a second one this week. Usually, we just do the one per week. But there was so much news today, and then I was actually off tonight. So I was like, you know what? Let's jump in. Let's get a second live chat going. There was a lot to talk about, a lot to break down. So really quick before we jump into the questions, anyone that hasn't been in the chat before, just drop your questions over to the side. We're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about whatever you want to talk about. There was a lot of news today. So first, let me go over the headlines. While I'm going over that, feel free to start dropping your questions or comments, and we'll break this all down. So first of all, day kicks off with some pretty huge news. Ghost of Tsushima finally has a release date after so long. This game was announced quite a while ago. They were kind of quiet about it, and then suddenly they announced that in just 3 months, a little over 3 months away, Ghost of Tsushima is dropping in June. So that is super exciting stuff. So right off the bat, we're like, okay, sweet, we got a big piece of news today. Sony's been a little quiet, so it's exciting to get something fresh. Then all of a sudden, just a little bit later, it's just a couple hours later, all of a sudden they reveal The Last of Us is getting a live action series on HBO. So it was like, okay, here's even more info for today. And then we capped it all off. AMD just did their investor presentation where they talked about RDNA2. They talked about Zen, the future of the company. But what's interesting and what's noteworthy for us is that they seemed to indicate, and there's some debate about this online, so we can dive into all of it, but they seem to indicate that PlayStation 5 is also using RDNA2 very similarly to just like Xbox Series X. Now, it doesn't mean the power is going to be the exact same, because they're on the same base technology, just because the architecture is the same, there could still be power differences. But it appears, and we'll dive into this, it looks like PlayStation will also be using RDNA2 as well as Xbox. So start dropping those questions on the side. We don't have to just talk about that. We can talk about whatever else you want since we have the chat going. If you want to talk about Doom or Ori or Animal Crossing or any of that kind of stuff, we can, of course, go into that as well. But those were just kind of the big news, headlines today. So let's see what kind of questions are dropping. Elias has our first question here. It looks like Elias Stapleton. PS5 news. Then PlayStation in one day breaks the internet. The Last of Us series and HBO with PS production involved, and Ghost of Tsushima release date more early than expected. PS5 preparation. Cool. So I had somebody comment this on Twitter right after the Ghost of Tsushima date was announced. It was a really good point. They were like, after that, basically, we now have the final look, the final layout of what PlayStation has coming in the near future, right? There's basically no other big PS4 only exclusives that we don't know when they're coming now. So it seems like we are finally there. We're in the home stretch. So does that mean the slate is now cleared to talk about PS5? And it would appear that way. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's coming in super soon. I hope we hear about it soon. But it does give them a clean slate, right? They don't have anything just sitting there waiting. We know when Final Fantasy is coming. We know when, which is very soon. We know when The Last of Us. We know when Ghost of Tsushima. That was like the last puzzle piece that was still floating out there. And we have that now. There's not any more big PS4 only titles. Who knows about cross-gen? We still don't know which games will be cross-gen or not going into next gen. But PlayStation 4, at least, is set in stone. We have everything big announced. So it does seem like room has been made. The floor is wide open, if you will, for Sony to start talking about PS5. Now, again, whether that means we're going to hear about it in March. I've seen some people say that now they think Sony's not going to talk about any of this until all of these games are out, since the slate is so close to each other. That would be surprising to me if they push it that late. But yeah, it was a big news day for Sony. Really, really big. Last I checked, the tweet that went out about Ghost of Tsushima from their Twitter profile, not even the PlayStation one, but just the Ghost of Tsushima Twitter profile had already gotten something like 25,000 likes. So a lot of excitement. It was at like 500,000 views on Twitter. So it does seem like that's generating some major interest. I'm expecting Ghost of Tsushima to be really, really big. So what does this mean for PS4? You know, that's one thing that's a very interesting question. I've gotten a lot of questions about this. Is this going to hurt them being so close? So let's look at this. We have in the next 3 months, 3 huge PlayStation exclusives all within a month of each other, right? So we have Final Fantasy VII Remake hitting in April. Then you get to May and you have The Last of Us Part 2. Then you get to June and you have Ghost of Tsushima. That's pretty crazy. I mean, to have 3, not like mid-tier exclusives. We're talking these are gigantic, major AAA productions all within 1 month each of each other. That is crazy. My hunch is that it's not going to hurt any of the games. You'd still have a month between, right? So you still have a lot of time to play each one. Let's say you're someone like me who's a wild man who's going to go out there and get every single one of those games. You know, I mean, you have basically 4 weeks, you know, or even longer between some of them, like Final Fantasy and The Last of Us. Yes, they're a month apart, but they're actually more weeks apart because Final Fantasy is the beginning and The Last of Us is at the end of May. So I don't think it hurts too much, actually. I don't think any of these games are going to get like severely hurt by being so close to each other. One thing this makes me wonder is Sony finally going to drop the price of the PlayStation 4? Because I'll tell you what, if ever there was a time that feels perfect to finally do that price cut that has been just sitting for so long, this seems like it would be the time, right? Because PlayStation 4 sales are really stagnating right now, especially in the US and Japan. They're really stagnating, especially in Japan and the upcoming February numbers that will be released. It's really slowing down because the gen's just coming to an end. So with these 3 huge exclusives about to hit, what better way to try to sell a last real big burst of PS4 consoles with these games than a price cut? Because I'll tell you what, as big as these games are, without a price cut, I'm curious actually how big the hardware impact would be or not. I'm not 100% sure if it'll be huge or not, but let's say they come out and they're like PS4 gets a $50 or $100 permanent price cut right in the timing of these games. Wow. You know, I think you could see a big resurgence of PS4 hardware. So those are my kind of quick thoughts on Ghost of Tsushima, what it means for PlayStation 4. Let's move on to the next questions. I'm sure you guys have a lot more to say about that. All right. GC2F guy, is RDMA good? Sorry. So RDNA is basically AMD's latest technology. Right now, RDNA1 is what's on store shelves. That's what you can get in your PC right now. But coming towards the end of this year, RDNA2 is AMD's next technology for their graphics, for their GPU technology. It sounds like AMD's claim, who knows how this will pan out in final hardware, but their claim is that RDNA2 gets a 50% performance boost per watt over RDNA1. So it sounds like RDNA2 is pretty spectacular. Those are some seriously good gains. It's going to be all about ray tracing. That's a really big focus. RDNA2 has ray tracing technology in it, which RDNA1 does not. RDNA2 introduces hardware-based ray tracing, which is kind of like a major buzzword for next gen. So yes, to answer your question, is RDNA good? Yes, it's very good. Very, very, very good. It's basically the latest, greatest cutting edge technology for AMD. BLRDF, LOL, Sony loves random Tuesdays. That they do. GC asking about RDNA. We went over that. Elias, here were some more questions. One, best year for PS4. April, Final Fantasy VII. May, The Last of Us. June, Ghost of Tsushima and Neo, Persona 5, newest Yakuza, etc. Yeah, there's a lot. This could be the best year for PlayStation in terms of software. It definitely has that potential. You try to think about some other peak years. Maybe there has been some better years for third-party games, maybe. You also have to remember we just had Dreams release in February, which I haven't played yet, but that's getting rave critic reviews. So you also count Dreams into this year. It's arguably the best year for PS4 exclusives. I mean, I definitely can see that argument. As long as Ghost of Tsushima ends up as good as I think we all hope it's going to be, and as long as The Last of Us 2 delivers, which I'd be shocked if it doesn't, yeah. You know what, Elias? This very well could be the best year for PS4 exclusives. It very well could be. Elias with number 2 here. Very early in the year, do you think PS is preparing the field for next gen? I was thinking Ghost will go very far in the year with PS5 almost close. So yeah, Ghost is a little bit sooner than some people think, than some of us were thinking, including myself. I was starting to think that game was going to be like maybe like a September-ish game, maybe in October. October probably not, but I was kind of in my mind thinking that time frame a little bit closer to PS5. It being in June is definitely earlier than I expected, because that's not even like late summer. I mean, that's early summer. So definitely faster than I thought. And it could be, like you said, kind of making the way, getting everything out the door before PS5's there to really focus on PS5 messaging. All right. Blurry Face. How do you feel about the fact that they will adapt Ellie and Joel's story and not make a completely new story in the world of The Last of Us? That's a great question. That's a really good question. So as a gamer, as someone who has already played The Last of Us, multiple times, it in a way, maybe it's slightly less exciting for me. I'm excited for the show, don't get me wrong. But what I mean is, like, I kind of already know where that story's going. But I think it makes sense for a broad, you're trying to hit not just gamers with this show. You're going to be trying to hit all kinds of people. And that's such a great story. You look at The Last of Us 1's story, the characters, their interactions, and it makes sense. I see why HBO and Sony would really want to tell that story over, maybe creating like a spinoff. I think it makes sense. I see why they did that. For me, like, if I could just have picked anything I wanted, maybe it would have been fun to do something in that universe, but with like different characters. But I'm still excited. I'm still day one. I'm going to watch the heck out of it. I've seen a lot of interesting fan castings online already. People are throwing tons of stuff out there. One I really liked was the actor from Game of Thrones. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but the actor who played Jaime Lannister. That would be good. I liked that pick actually a lot. Yeah, so a lot of people saying Hugh Jackman, that would be awesome too. There's a lot of fun stuff they could do there, but I'm excited for it. Zero, the silent hero. I think the argument that RDNA2 isn't being used on PS5 and they were referring to multiple Xbox consoles falls flat because they wouldn't acknowledge Lockhart unless it was announced. Zero, I agree with you. So let's go into this. Because there's a lot of debate going on online right now. Was AMD talking about when they said, because the wording was clear, they said next gen consoles, plural, are going to be using the latest RDNA and Zen technology. It wasn't really up for a lot of interpretation, but some people are. Some people are claiming this isn't confirmation of PlayStation. It could be anything else. So let's look at a couple of the facts. Let's just look at a couple of things that we know for sure before we make a final decision on that, because they did not outright say, hey, PS5 is RDNA. But let's look at the whole presentation. So the entire time, every slide they showed, basically, where they were talking about next-gen consoles, it specifically said Xbox Series X, that exact console, and it would say PS5 on the slide. Those were the two that it would show whenever it was saying next-gen's coming. It seemed very clear that in all of their talk of consoles, they're referring to Series X and PS5. There's no even hint towards Lockhart anywhere in this presentation. So first we have that. Secondly, we know that RDNA2 is the beginning of AMD's hardware-based ray tracing tech. So RDNA1 does not have hardware-based ray tracing. It's not a thing. RDNA2 is going to introduce that. Now, why is that important? We know PlayStation 5 has hardware-based ray tracing. So I'll just say this. If it's not, right, if RDNA2 is not what is powering PlayStation 5, this is kind of on AMD, in my opinion, because the wording sure makes it seem like they're basically flat out saying RDNA2s in PS5. So if that ends up not being the case, I think it's kind of egg on the face of AMD. I think they probably should have phrased things a little bit differently than saying, hey, the next consoles are using our latest tech, right after they spend a whole bunch of time talking about RDNA 2, having PS5 and Xbox Series X side by side on all these slides. Yeah, I think it probably should have been a little bit clearer if they're not. So honestly, my takeaway is it seems pretty clear to me PlayStation 5 is also RDNA 2, just like Xbox Series X. Now, again, that doesn't mean their power is the exact same. Important to note. Doesn't mean power is identical. There could still be differences, but the technology seems to be the same. All right, next. Elias, what do you think of PlayStation products? Corey was talking about a lot of God of War series, giving clues on his Twitter. Now with the Last of Us TV series with HBO, PS Productions is getting ready for God of War. Very well could be. God of War is another PlayStation IP that would work really well in live action, I think. I think it'd translate great, to be honest with you, especially with the newer setup than the original God of War games. They could go that route. They could have started adapting the original games. I could totally see that as well. But the character of Kratos, is so over the top in those older games. Newer Kratos kind of, I think, would work better on TV than the OG God of War. But regardless of how they're doing it, I think God of War would make a lot of sense. Sony, we know, is pursuing getting as many of their IP out into TV shows, movies as they can. The Uncharted movie has been up and down in production forever. They've been trying to get Uncharted made. So I would say God of War seems like a very, very likely candidate to get a TV show or movie. Yeah, I would say that's very, very likely. And I think The Witcher on Netflix really opened the door for all of this. And Sonic. Sonic's doing really well in the movie theater right now. But really, when you look at how big The Witcher on Netflix was, and then you look at how much it boosted game sales for The Witcher, I mean, we saw massive spikes for The Witcher sales. So I think this is going to light a fire. Now seeing Sonic successful as well, I think you're going to see more and more companies trying to get their games into being TV shows and into being movies, because you get a double boost, right? If it's good and people like it, you get that big success for the movie. Then you also get that big success of a resurgence in sales for your games. So, I mean, it makes perfect business sense. PVT, you look at data for Sony and Microsoft. What's the excitement you're seeing for both? Consumers more excited about PlayStation or Xbox now? Good question, PVT. So, as someone who tries to keep track of all this stuff, I try my best. I'm not perfect at it, but I try to keep my hand on and my eyes on the industry and the pulse of it. My vibe is, of course, PlayStation is still the bigger brand for sure. PlayStation excitement is still at another level over Xbox. It just is. It's so much more of a global brand, In the US, Xbox is actually still very, very, very strong. It's not as strong as PlayStation this gen, but the Xbox One still actually sold, pretty well in the US. But when you look at globally, PlayStation is just such a juggernaut in Europe. It's so much stronger in Japan, and it is bigger right now in the US as well. So definitely PlayStation, I would say, is still the bigger, more excitement. But what I will say for Xbox is that the Xbox fans, at least right now, seem a little bit happier with Microsoft than Sony fans, in a way, feel with PlayStation. And I don't mean that by what games people are playing or stuff like that. What I mean is in the messaging. I'm seeing a lot of PlayStation fans just frustrated, that Sony hasn't talked about PS5 yet, and that they've been a little quiet, that they've been skipping trade shows. I'm not talking about with coronavirus. I'm saying even before that, when they were announcing they wouldn't be at E3 and stuff. Whereas Microsoft, at least lately, has been much, much more vocal in talking to their fan base. So PlayStation still, I would definitely give the edge as the bigger, more exciting brand for most of the world. But Xbox is doing a good job right now in communication. I will definitely say that. They've stepped up their game, I feel like, in terms of messaging. All right, Elias, amazing stream like always, Benji. Thank you, Elias. I really appreciate it. I love doing these. If you guys like the chat, make sure you hit the like button. It does help the stream. It helps the channel. So if you like doing these chats, hit the like. But either way, I love having you all here. It's a blast. It's fun. I love doing these. All right, Zero the Silent Hero. Sony dropped the first PS5 Wired article in April, second Wired article in October, 6 months apart. Do you think we get something in April, 6 months after the last drop? So my guess, Zero, is I talked about this on the last live chat. I think Sony really needs to talk about PlayStation 5. My opinion, I'm not Sony brass. I'm not in charge over there. I'm just an independent sales analyst, right? I'm not even with a mega company. I'm just me doing this on my own. My opinion from just watching the industry, I think if they don't do this, by April, if they're still quiet after that, I don't think it's a good idea personally. I just think waiting that long for a whole platform reveal, if you wait until May or June, I don't like that. I think it's too crunched of a marketing cycle, especially with all the games. More about the games than the hardware. You're going to be just throwing info really, really quick. Then you're going to need third parties to just start dropping, their game announcements like boom, 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 super rapidly. I just think the messaging might get a little jumbled if you wait. I think if you announce it, March, April, that gives a little more time than if you wait all the way till like June, around E3 time to really announce. I just think that would be not the best move. So my guess is we do get something in March or April. GCT TF guy. Do you think PS5 will support a 4K HDR TV? Oh, definitely. They're probably going to support 8K, I would assume. Don't expect 8K games. 8K games are not going to happen anytime soon. Maybe with the PS5 Pro, you might see 8K restructuring, kind of like what we see with 4K checkerboarding. So don't expect that, but I expect, PlayStation 5 is going to have, I think they even actually already said that it has 8K support. So definitely 4K to support all the way up to 8K, I'm assuming. Yeah, right here, Justin confirming it. I think Sony already said it was going to have support for up to 8K displays. Yeah, exactly. Elias Stapleton, do you think Demon's Souls is the Bluepoint game for PS5? They said their game is a remake and will put the bar very high with graphics. Yeah, that's interesting, right? That they said that they want their game to be the showcase. I believe that was the exact word, the showcase for next generation graphics. So, wow, Bluepoint's going big with this one. They're feeling very confident, right? I mean, to put something like that out there, those are big words. It's not like, hey, we want to make a good looking game. They said we want to be a showcase for next gen technology. So, wow. Is it going to be Demon's Souls? There seems to be a lot of stuff pointing towards it. If I had to bet as a total guess, because I'll be honest, I don't know anyone working at Bluepoint. There's some companies that I am friendly with, and I know that, ideas about what's going on there. I don't know anything about Bluepoint. I have zero connections there, so I don't know what they're making. But my guess, probably Demon's Souls, because usually where there's smoke, there's fire. So that would make sense. I've seen some people wonder if it's going to be the original Metal Gear Solid or something like that. That would involve Konami, so that seems less likely to me. So I would guess yes. I'm going to guess it is Demon's Souls, but you never know. Poklin, what are your hopes and thoughts on the distribution of the Last of Us series? Ooh, that's an interesting question. I'm guessing HBO now in the US, but that isn't really an option internationally. Ooh, this is a great question. Personally hoping for PS Now. Wow, that is an interesting question. Man, that is interesting. So I'm expecting it to air, on HBO, network, or, the cable channel, of course, big. I think this is a very big project for them. Besides that, HBO now definitely, of course, it's going to be on that. But will it hit PS now internationally is a good question. If you're going for maximum reach, that would make sense. It would require some sort of deal between Sony and HBO. Obviously they had to come to a deal for this to even happen. But will it hit PS now? I mean, it would be cool. It would definitely extend the reach. It would definitely make it easier to access for some people. So I like that idea. Whether it will happen, I'm not sure. One thing I was really happy to see about this is that Neil Druckmann is going to be co-writing it. I love that. I love that, love that, love that. It makes it so much more encouraging. So many of these video game projects, they go somewhere, they go to a studio tackles it and starts working on it, but like none of the original creators or team are part of it. I love that Neil Druckmann is actually co-writing this series. He's like heavily involved. So I love that. That's encouraging for sure. GG2F guys saying, thank you, Benji. You're welcome. Max B, have you heard any news about a PS5 reveal event? Nope, Max, I am out of the loop on that one. Almost everyone I know is out of the loop on that one, to be honest with you. So if it's happening soon, not many people know. I can tell you that. Not many people know. If there is a reveal event about to go down, most of the people that I talk to at least include that is going to include people that work, in like the journalism side. It's not like a known thing. I mean, there might be some. I'm not sitting here. I don't know everyone in the industry, but from the people I do talk to, it's not like a widely known thing. So if it is coming up, it's still kind of hidden. Maybe there's a few hardcore people out there that know, but not many. Yosemite Blam. I'm holding off on pre-ordering Ghost of Tsushima. Oh, interesting. I'm just getting standard edition. Have high hopes. Just want to see if we see a bit more. I get that, Yosemite. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm really excited for it because I really like Sucker Punch. I like their games. I love Infamous series. Really, really big fan of it. And I like what they're showing for Ghost of Tsushima. Visually, it looks stunning. Gameplay, the very, very first gameplay reveal we saw, I wasn't as excited for the gameplay side of things back when they showed it as Somewhere. I loved the world. I loved the visuals. Gameplay to me looked a little strange, but I still think it's going to be really, really good. I'm excited for Ghost of Tsushima, but it is a new IP, and I totally do not blame you for waiting on pre-ordering. Don't ever, sometimes I feel like people get pressured into pre-ordering stuff because of hype cycles. Don't necessarily do that. If you feel uncomfortable about getting a game day one, wait to see reviews, wait to see what people are saying. Silver Blue Seraphim. What is Xbox running on if not RDNA2? Silver Blue, they are. So Xbox Series X has confirmed they are RDNA2. That's for sure. That's a fact. Microsoft themselves said it. So no debate on that one. Xbox Series X is RDNA2. The only one still with some slight questions is PlayStation 5, but it definitely sure looks like PS5 is as well. Let me see. Sorry, I scrolled past some questions here. Grabbing a drink while I look. Give me 2 seconds. If you own both Xbox and PS4 and plan on getting both next-gen consoles, this is good. I agree, Yosemite. I agree. Both being RDNA2 is really good news, honestly. It's good news for everybody. Max B, RDNA2 is just being used as ammunition for fanboys. There's definitely a lot of that going on online. I can definitely tell you that. There is a lot, right? It's crazy. There's a lot of arguments going on online about this RDNA2 stuff, isn't there? Zero, the Silent Hero. Thanks for the validation, Benji. Yeah, for sure. Good question here from Max. Would the Lockhart even have ray tracing? That's a great question. Great question. I would say in theory, you would think so, because I suspect this is also an RDNA2 chip. The question, though, is just how capable will it be, right? So my guess is going to be, this is a guess before the technology has been revealed for Lockhart, but my guess is that Lockhart will be capable of ray tracing, to some degree, but it's probably going to be pared back a lot from what Series X can do. Not for sure on that, because we know the main difference that Microsoft's kind of out there saying is going to be resolution, whereas they're kind of looking at Lockhart more like a 1080p, like a regular HD machine, and Series X is more like a 4K, beefy machine. So maybe by paring that resolution way down to 1080p, maybe they're still able to do most of the ray tracing. But my guess is, maybe Lockhart's just going to be a little bit less than Series X, but probably it can still do it. Silver Blue. I can't see them adapting the older God of War at all. I love them, but they are mad. Yeah, I'm with you, Silver Blue. The old God of War to me seems harder to adapt to live action than the newer God of War. I think that would be harder for some audiences to accept, because Kratos is so, in the old games, he's like mowing down innocent people and all kinds of crazy stuff like that. So I think it would be harder to get audiences behind that version of Kratos than the newer one. So if we do get a God of War show, I'm going to guess it's going to be new Kratos. Ooh, Zero. I didn't know this. I know they said they have plans for a Twisted Metal TV series and the original story about the PlayStation productions. That would be interesting. I'd be down for some Twisted Metal. Pokeland. This is just my personal belief, but I believe a film series God of War would need a full CGI Kratos. Ooh, which might be too expensive. Can't see some tall, strong guy being painted white working. Well, you never know. I think they could pull it off, but it would be risky. It could look terrible really easy. I do agree with you on that, Pokeland. They would have to do a good job, because that could go one of two ways real fast. It could either look terrible or it could look good. A lot of times what they're doing nowadays is they're doing like that, like the white stuff or on him, like since he'd be painted white, they'd probably do that in CG post-processing, but maybe he would even be painted that the whole time. Here we go. Pokeland. Oh, wait, he's just talking about that still. Let's see. HDMI. G2CF guy, Grand Theft Auto 6 on Xbox Series X for sure. Yeah, for sure. That's coming. I would assume that's the next Rockstar game. They might have Bully before that. A lot of rumors have been going around about Bully 2, but the next major project from them is definitely Grand Theft Auto 6. Max B, Colin Moriarty and Jason Schreier hinted at Demon Souls. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, there's been a lot of smoke for their Demon Souls being Blue Point's game. So I'm gonna guess that is what it is. That seems to be what people in the know are hinting at. All right, what else we got? For international countries, HBO has a deal with Sky. Oh, cool. Every show premieres on Sky Atlantic. So that would help. The HBO stuff runs on Sky in Germany as well. Okay. So that should help clear some things up then for international people on The Last of Us show. If you have Sky, you should be good to go. 4K Gamer here saying that they're enjoying the live chat. Thanks for being here, 4K Gamer. Elias Collin from IGN hinted in his podcast Demon Souls, and Jason from Kotaku said in Reset Era forum yes to a question of if there will be a Demon Souls remastered, but now it seems it's a remake. Benji, give us a list of names. Who do you think knows something or even everything about the PS5 reveal event? Who do you think? All right, if I had to put a name out there, if there's any, and I don't know. I do not know this, so don't report this as Benji said that these people know. Don't hound these people because I have no clue, but I'm going to guess if anyone knows Jason Schreier, that is one of the most clued in people I've ever seen. So I'm going to guess Jason would probably have a good idea if it's soon or not. Maybe not, but I'm going to guess Jason. I'm going to guess Greg Miller because Greg has a very, very good relationship with PlayStation, very good relationship with Sony Studios. So I would guess Greg would probably have a good idea about that. Those would probably be my two main guesses. I would probably say, and you know what? I'll also throw in a Jeff Keighley in there because Keighley knows a lot more than he lets on. A lot more than he lets on. Keighley's one of those guys that's like good at secrets. Like all of a sudden, every once in a while, you just see him drop a mega bomb like before anybody. So those would be the three. If anyone knows, probably those three. Zero the Silent Hero. What if AMD said the latest version of RDNA, but didn't outright say RDNA2 because PlayStation 5 is running custom RDNA1 with majority of RDNA2's features? It is possible, Zero. That is a possibility. I still don't think they're going there. I think the main reason they didn't is because Sony still technically hasn't revealed the PS5. They've talked a little bit in Wired articles, but Microsoft's gone a step further. They've shown the box. They've tweeted the teraflops. Like, I have a feeling Microsoft is kind of okay right now with people like AMD talking about their platform pretty openly because they've put a lot out there. I'm guessing Sony is a lot more tight-lipped and has probably a lot higher NDAs currently on some of this stuff than Microsoft has, because they still haven't said a lot. You know, they gave us a little bit in those Wired articles, but there's a lot they haven't as well. So my guess on why they didn't, specifically say a whole bunch of stuff about PS5 here is for that reason, and why they used more generic talk like consoles. That's my guess. Avery Cope. Gonna wait to see if there's a smart delivery system for PS5 before I pre-order stuff. Yeah, totally get that. I'm gonna guess there is. I don't think Sony would be crazy enough to charge twice. I know they did that before, but nowadays I think you're gonna run into some issues. Honestly, I think after Microsoft said what they did, I think after CD Projekt Red said what they said, Cyberpunk's going to get free patches. I think any company that goes out there, next gen and is like, hey, pay us another $60 or $30 for the patches to look better, I think consumers will not be glad about that at all. Lucas here. Is Microsoft really going with two models? They're too silent about it. I don't know about this two models thing. Interesting question, Lucas. I'm of two minds of this. How long have we been going, by the way? 37 minutes? We still got time. I thought we'd been going longer than that. Okay. So about the two models situation, I'm of two minds. So let me go first from the business side of me. I think it's really smart. Especially if Series X is expensive. If Series X is a 500, let's say even 600, I think that would be crazy. But $500 to $600 machine, I totally get why you would come out with another system. That's probably 300. That's my guess. My guess is Lockhart's Lockhart's probably $299. Series X is probably $499, 500. I'm gonna guess 300 and 500. So business sense wise, I think it's kind of smart. You got a lot of people in early on next gen that would normally have to wait because they don't have the money to buy a console. 300 is pretty attractive if you're someone that just buys Madden, if you just buy FIFA, if you just buy NBA, right? These people that are more casual gamers, it's pretty nice for them to be able to get in the door cheap. So that side of me is like, cool. Part of me worries about messaging and marketing. Part of me is like, are people going to get confused by this, right at launch, especially because it's not like sometimes in the past where we've had two models, but one, has a bigger hard drive or something like that. We're talking about major power gaps here, which we're kind of dealing with right now with Xbox and PS4 Pro and all that as well. So it's probably not going to be too big of a deal, but it is one thing I do wonder. It is interesting they're so silent about it. I am interested when they're going to talk about Lockhart. There seems to be some people on Twitter, some Xbox insiders type people that are hinting that we're going to get Lockhart info soon. And if so, I'm very curious to see how Microsoft approaches talking about this machine. Very, very curious about it. Rick Grayson, I don't like that Xbox One and Lockhart will be holding Series X back, even in small ways. Yeah, there's some debate about that. So one thing with Microsoft is that their games are all going to be coming to PC anyways. So I guess that's one way you can look at it, is like, no matter what, they were going to be developing their first party games for a wide range of hardware because they're going to want their games on PC to work on lower end machines anyways. So from that viewpoint, maybe actually Lockhart doesn't really hold it back that much. My question is going to be third-party games. I'm curious. As you get more and more SKUs out there, it's just more development work. A lot of engines nowadays are really scalable. But yeah, I'm curious. I'm very curious to see what Microsoft says about it. Elias kind of talking what I was saying. Lock cards is a problem for developers. Devs will have to develop for inferior machine next gen. Even Eurogamer Digital Foundry said that's a problem. What do you think? It remains to be seen. I don't want to go too far one way or the other on this one until we see what the games look like. When we hear from developers what they think, hard to say. Me personally, I'm definitely Series X. I'm not going to get a Lockhart, but we'll see. Do you think someday the OG God of Wars, even the one from PSP Vita, are going to be remade? Ooh, good question. With the graphics and engine from God of War 4, 5, and future God of Wars. It's the kind of franchise you could do that with. Whether it will or not, I'm going to lean towards no. Sony, I don't think are going to go back and do many full-scale remakes like that. They did with Shadow of the Colossus. They might be with Demon's Souls. God of War is not one I'm expecting, just because those games kind of really hold up, honestly, especially 2 and 3, even to this day, hold up pretty well. So I'm guessing their remakes are probably going to be games that need a little bit more work and attention. Yosemite. Ever since Xbox Game Studios said they would support Xbox One for 1 to 2 years, and publishers like Square Enix saying they're supporting both gens for a few years, I've questioned Lockhart. Yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of cross-gen games for a long time. It looks like almost across the board, Sony might be one of the only ones that's going to have some first-party next-gen only games early. There might not even be many third-party games, or Xbox isn't going down that route. Square Enix isn't going that route. Looks like cross-gen is going to be a heavy thing for the first couple years. So, yeah, it'll be to watch. Max saying, thanks for answering your questions. Of course, I love doing these. I love doing it. Yosemite on X over releasing a Lockhart. Well, the main that Yosemite is the CPU gains and the SSD gains. So, as powerful as the Xbox One X is, it is a very powerful machine for, what you pay, really. I have a One X and I love the thing. But the Lockhart is going to have a way better CPU. I mean, significantly better CPU than even the One X has. And it's also going to have an SSD in it. So, that's, I think, why they're kind of pivoting away from One X, and why Lockhart's still going to be a thing, because it's still going to have some big advantages even over the Xbox One X. VIV FTP, with PS Now adding control and rumors of new countries coming this year like India, Australia, and several more. Do you have any thoughts or info on how they're shaping up for the service for next gen? Yes, let me grab a drink and we'll talk about it. Yes, so PS Now is going to be a big deal next gen. Already a big deal this gen, especially towards the end of it. But yes, next gen, it is definitely going to be a major focus, just like Game Pass continues to be an even bigger focus for Microsoft. And that is because subscription spending. Some developers are worried about this. An article just came out recently, I think from Business Insider, where they were talking about some developers and publishers are actually worried about the devaluation of games from subscription services. All I can say is that definitely PS Now is amping up for next gen. Sony wants to drastically increase subscriptions drastically by millions. They want to raise it by millions in the next coming years. And the only way you get millions of more subs is you make that a more attractive offer. Now, does that mean that you're going to get Horizon Zero Dawn 2 day one on PS Now? I don't think so. I don't think Sony is going to fully go the Microsoft route where you get these games, day one for PlayStation exclusives on PS Now. But I think you're going to see more third-party partnerships for newer games, kind of like Game Pass has. A lot of games hit Game Pass decently quick. So I think you'll see bigger third-party deals. And I also think you'll see maybe smaller PlayStation exclusives hit day one, right? Maybe you'll see something like the scope of Concrete Genie next gen being a day one on PS Now. I could see that sort of scenario, not their big AAA, but they're more, indie or mid-tier size projects going on PS Now day one. I could see that. And I also think their exclusives will hit the service faster. So not day one, maybe like, in the first, 6 to 12 months. But yeah, it's definitely a big focus, a big focus. Pokeland. What are your overall hopes for the casting of The Last of Us? Ooh, I'd like if they brought back actors from the game itself. Plenty of have experience with TV series and fit the looks. Ooh, that's interesting. I saw Troy Baker tweeting about this. I saw Troy Baker throwing out a tweet. I don't know if maybe Troy's trying to line himself up for a role, himself up for a gig. Obviously, in the games, he's Joel, but I doubt he's going to get that role. I just doubt it. But yeah, I could see some people making the jump over. But I think they're probably going to go with big actors. I think you're going to get one or two big actors on this. It's an HBO production. I feel like they're putting a lot of money in it. And that also kind of gives the vibe it might be a mini series, not like a continuous series. I think this might be like a Chernobyl was, a mini doc. And whenever it's a mini series, you can kind of spend more money because you don't have to keep going longer and longer and longer. So I think you might get some big actors. I think you might see some big actors in this. Who do I like? I kind of mentioned earlier, Hugh Jackman. I like that fan casting. And I like the guy whose name I can't pronounce. That was Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones. I like those two. Those are the two that I saw thrown out that I was like, ooh, yeah, I really like those. Really like both. As for Ellie, I don't know. Ellie would be a tough one. I know back in the day people said Ellen Page, but I feel like, she's probably too old now. So you'd have to go with somebody a lot younger. So I'm not sure who you would go with for Ellie. All right, we'll answer a few more. We're at 45 minutes, so we'll go for like 10 more minutes and we'll wrap the chat. All right. YTLMDG. What can we expect from Xbox big exclusives for next gen? Shout out from Brazil. What is up, Brazil? What is up? I'd love to come to the country someday, by the way. Brazil is definitely on my list. I would love to visit one day. I hear the gaming community down there is amazing. As for what we can expect, big exclusives, Fable. It sounds like Fable's getting a reboot, so expect to see Fable. I'd be shocked if that's not happening. I think you'll probably see Fable relatively soon. It looks like Playground Games is making that game. Halo Infinite, obviously. Ever Wild, I believe it's its name, from Rare is on the way. The interesting thing is going to be from the studios they just purchased recently. What are they making? Ninja Theory has Hellblade 2. Obsidian is making an RPG. In Exile is also making another RPG on top of Wasteland 3. So they're making something else that's a different kind of RPG. So quite a bit, actually. Expect Xbox next gen to have a lot more exclusives than this gen for sure. Some stuff to look forward to, I would say. Don't know if they're going to match Sony yet, but definitely a big step up. Lucas, this 2-model thing doesn't make sense to me. Microsoft said there's no true exclusives for Series X. If there's another model, Microsoft Studios will have to make games for 4 different models, ranging from 1.3 to 12 teraflop. Lucas, in a way, I'm definitely with you, but I think the thing that kind of changes that is because, like I mentioned earlier, Microsoft Studio first-party games now have to make their games on PC. So if you're making a game for PC, you're already designing it for a wide range of hardware. That's something Sony studios haven't had to do yet, is their games are just locked to one console. So they don't have to, they can really focus on just the PlayStation 4 and the PS4 Pro. So maybe 2. Whereas Xbox, if you're making Halo Infinite, that game's got to run on PCs, and it's going to have to run on a huge range of PCs. So I think they're already doing a lot of the work anyways. So I think that's kind of why I'm more okay with it than some, but I still don't love it. If I'm being honest with you, I don't love the idea, but we'll see. It might pay out well for them. Silver Blue, Jeff being in with Valve like nobody else. Yeah, definitely. Nobody is closer with Valve than Jeff Keighley. He is the guy for Valve secrets. Generated talent. With smart delivery, how do you tell developers who are adamant that next-gen upgrades cost money and resources and are now more than simple patches not to charge? Well, you can't. So that's what Microsoft said, is that they are encouraging developers to also support smart delivery, but they don't have to. So technically, if let's pick a random company, let's say Activision, wants to have an HD patch for one of their games and they want you to pay for it, technically they can do that. Technically they can charge you. It's not a forced thing, but I think the market's going to force it because I think people are going to throw a fit if you make them pay. I really do. In an age where people are so used to patches, people are so used to updates, and now you have smart delivery, you have Cyberpunk. I just think people are going to be real upset if you try to I think the market will answer that. I really do. Now, full-scale remakes like Final Fantasy, Resident Evil, those have plenty of a place, but just upgrades, I don't think people are going to fly for it. Zero the Silent Hero. Honestly, I think Ghost of Tsushima's release date points to the possibility of one of those multiple PS5 events that Jason talked about being set around E3. We'll probably get a launch trailer then. It could be. I'll tell you what, Ghost being in June does make it more interesting that maybe PS5 reveals further away than we thought. Whew, if they really wait till June, that's going to be something else, huh? That is going to be something else. That's going to be a long wait. My goodness. If people are getting upset now on Twitter and forums for not seeing the PS5, just imagine what it's going to be like come June. People are going to be fired up. All right. Big Moch. If we're assuming Sony is going to wait until June, we just talked about this, to reveal PS5, is it possible for third-party companies to push them not to do that? I'm not complaining, just curious. Nice t-shirt, by the way. Thank you for the t-shirt comment. And as to your question, third parties can definitely push for it, because here's the thing. I talked about this on the last live chat, so I won't go super into it, but I'll just mention it. Companies like Sony and Xbox discourage third-party developers from showing their next-gen games, in really any way before the platforms are revealed. And Jason Schreier, I'll point back to Jason because he's the all-knowing. He noted that Sony got really mad at Ubisoft for showing Watch Dogs before the PS4 was revealed, and they also were really upset at Star Wars 1313 when that was revealed before the PS4 was revealed. So, I mean, I guess you technically could show a game beforehand. I don't know that there's anything technically preventing it because, if you're Ubisoft, Assassin's Creed's your game. Like, you own the game. So, I mean, if you want to show it, I don't see how Sony could straight up tell you no. But I think they heavily discourage it. And the longer you push off the PS5 reveal, the more upset definitely third parties are going to get, because they're going to want to start their marketing cycles. So that's why I've kind of been leaning towards March and April and not like all the way out till June, is I just think companies will get upset. All right, generated talent. I think you can still get around smart delivery by adding DLC or even releasing collections. Release an Uncharted anthology with every game in a DLC, a Last of Us collection, Infamous collection, etc. Maybe. That's the one way you might be able to get away with it. It's like you said, it's like a full-scale package. If you're like, hey, yeah, here's multiple games, we're going to charge for, you might be able to get away with that. I would agree with that, generated talent. You can probably do that. I just don't think you can get away with, like, let's say Avengers, right? Avengers is a game that's going to be next-gen enhanced as well. Let's say that Avengers, they're like, hey, it's coming out on Xbox and PS4, but you know what? If you want it on Series X and PS5, you're going to have to pay double. You're going to have to pay 60 on here and 60 on here. I just think people would get mad. All right. Going for 5 more minutes, everyone. 5 more minutes. Avery Cope. This is the longest Nintendo has ever gone without giving a quarterly direct. I know, right? Would shareholders be getting a bit annoyed at this point, given there are 0 first-party release dates after Animal Crossing? Here's what I'll say. as much grief as people have been giving Sony about the PS5 reveal, yeah, Nintendo needs to talk soon. Just because, like you said, in terms of like, if I'm a shareholder, if I'm an investor, I'm like, hey, Animal Crossing is going to hit huge, no doubt. Game's going to be massive, but after that, what's going to keep the momentum rolling, right? You need some game announcements, you need some reveals. Like, we need to know what's coming. And after March, it is a total ghost town for Switch first party release dates. So, man, I would think they need to talk really soon. If they still keep waiting, and when I say really soon, I mean like this month. If there's not a direct this month, Animal Crossing will be out and you'll have no games on the horizon. First party major ones with release dates. It'll be an empty slate. That's not where you want to sit as a company. So I think they talk this month. I think this month you get a direct. Generated talent. Do you think Sony will use PS Now as a way to get around back compatibility? Maybe they don't have the structure to stream 4K 60 PS5 games, but they could always stream PS1, PS2, PS3, and download PS4. So it sounds like Sony has kind of said that they are going to have some backwards compatibility. Said it's perfect for, like, let's say PS1, PS2, and PS. But I think PS4, you probably need real back compatibility. I think people are going to be wanting that. So you can still get away with it because you can, use PS Now for that. But yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. Avery Cope, will NPD numbers did a way to adjust calculations for game streaming? That's a great question. That's a good question for Matt Piscatella. Same way Billboard did for music streams and albums sold. That's going to become incredibly important next gen. We're in this place right now where it's hard to judge games, like, let's say, Xbox first party games. It's so hard to judge the performance of those because it's easy to point like at a sales chart and be like, wow, this particular game disappeared off the chart really fast, or it didn't debut very high. But we know Game Pass has millions of people accessing those games on day one. It's just a different business model. So I think for NPD to be valuable and to continue to be an industry standard, I do think they're going to have to come up with something, yes, that gets some info on streams and things like that. Now, if that's in the works, I don't know. Matt Piscatella on Twitter would be the best guy to ask that because I don't know that. Generated talent. PS, you're awesome at answering questions. You actually go through each comment. Thanks, Generated talent. I try to hit everyone that I can. And all the comments, because honestly, 99% of the time, the comments you guys drop are excellent. So I'm learning from you, just like you're learning from me. Avery Cope, Millie Bobby Brown for Ellie. I could see that. How old is Millie Bobby Brown now? I don't know. I feel like she might be starting to get a little bit too old too, but maybe not. She's a good actress. I would totally be in for it. Like, I'd be down. But yeah, that's an interesting one. I just don't know if she's starting to get too old or not, but probably not. I mean, she's still on Stranger Things. So, she's playing a pretty young character on that. So it could probably still work. DT, Benji, due to the success of God of War, do you think Sony Santa Monica will revive Dark Side Internal 7? Canceled. Oh, I wish. Yeah, if anyone ever saw the concept art for that, I thought it looked awesome. That was Stig's game that he was making at Sony Santa Monica, ended up getting canceled. And basically what was heard through the grapevine was the reason that game got canceled was, Sony saw it as kind of too similar to Destiny, because it was going to be another one of those like sci-fi, shared world kind of things. And we know Sony at the time was like doing that marketing deal with Bungie over Destiny. And also apparently the game missed, internal production milestones. So it also was having issues. I think that's which game you're talking about. I'd love to see that come back. I thought the concept art from it looked rad. I thought it looked sweet. All right. I think we're done. Did I miss any questions here? Psychic, what do you think about Sony PS5 launching 2028? Nope, it's definitely gonna be way sooner than that. Sorry if I oh, are you saying Sony Latin America hates us? I'm sorry. I don't know the details about that. Are Sony really, really bad about Latin America? I don't think it's gonna be 2028. I don't think so. Hopefully it's going to be 2020 like everyone else. I'm hoping for a global launch. All right, I think we're good. One more. Skyro's got one here. Do you think we'll get a full reveal of Xbox Series X and S before E3? Yes. Last thing I'll answer here. Yes, I think you're going to get a dedicated Xbox event before E3. I think E3 is going to be all about games, and I think Microsoft will have a own separate hardware showcase beforehand. All right, everyone. Thanks for jumping in the stream, the impromptu live chat. Always appreciate talking to everyone on here. Make sure you like the video if you enjoy the chat, and I will talk to you all on Twitter or on YouTube later. Thanks again, everyone, and I will see you around. Peace.